Hello and welcome to What a Guy Wants. We are Coach Ali and Coach Yogesh, and this podcast is about all things men. Without further ado, for the topic of the day, Ali, what does it mean to be a man?
So, Yogesh, as you ask this question, right, the first thing that comes up to my mind is this profound and this amazing ability to just stare at the wall for an hour without being able to think about a single thought. It's absolute bliss, it's absolute heaven to be in that place where you can just stare at a wall and do absolutely nothing. But on a more serious note, as I think about this subject, it's about we've always seen what does it mean to be a man from the roles he's played. And the roles have morphed and changed so significantly over the last few decades. Before World War II, we would have like more or less gender specific roles where women were in the house and they were managing the home front, whereas men were outside and they were managing that front. And there was this clear division of responsibilities. After the World War, when men came back from the war, they didn't know where to fit in because with the tasks they were performing on the outside were also being performed by women now. So there was this great deal of insecurities. What does it mean to be a man? Because I used to be the provider, but now I'm no longer the only provider. So where do I fit in all this equation? And so again, it's a lot has changed. At the same time, men taking up responsibilities of child caring, caring for their children. It's more like my parents and my grandparents have never done it. I'm doing it. So what does it mean to be a man? And in some shape or form, we're constantly challenging ourselves and asking ourselves this question: what does it mean for me to be a man? And what's coming up for me is in today's day and age, it can mean absolutely anything and everything. There's so much absolutely there that defines you. And it's not about like conscribing to this formal definition. It's about what's my definition of being a man. Is my definition of being a man? Yes, of course, there's some inherent characteristics, but at the same time, what's my definition? My definition of being a man is being absolutely comfortable playing dress up with my daughter. And yeah, fine. Being in the boxing ring, that's absolutely fine. Taking care of children, that's absolutely fine as well. And there's so many things. So I guess that in some shape or form, there is, as we see it in a different way, we can also see that there's this liberation of we get to be so many more things than just that a few set of things that existed at one point in time.
Yeah. And, initially when you started off talking about the demarcation of roles, like man provides, man do hunting and gathering, women cooks and feeds the child. And I thought the first thing was, yeah, it was so clear demarcation, no confusion. So everyone knows their role, so it's easy. However, when you went a little bit more deeper into it, I'm now understanding, you know what? Yes, there is more confusion. There's a hell a lot more confusion in today's world. But it also means that the role has become more dynamic, right? So if a man has strong paternal instincts, he doesn't need to have shame about it anymore, but also be okay being a man versus, say, 100 years back, if I was interested in knitting, I would be like outcasted by society.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and at the same time, where cooking is concerned, right?
Yeah.
It's one of those things where cooking in some shape or form 100 years ago at home is seen as a predominantly a feminine task.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be anymore. And at the same time, in the arena, there are cooks who are some of the best chefs in the world are men. So at the same time, we get to be so many more things. And in terms of what you just picked up on, Yogesh, a big thing was that men at one point were expected to look tough, and tough meant that we don't show emotion, and not showing emotion also meant not showing emotion to our children, right? Not showing that I love you, I care about you, and playing with them and taking care of them and being in a childlike state with them. And it was one of those things where if a man would do it 100 years ago, he would have to break a few barriers in his mind to go ahead and be that way for his children. So it's just a really, really interesting one where how the rules and how the dynamics of what it means to be a man has changed over the years. Yeah. So, for example, I'll give you a small example. This is the time when we were moving from UK to Pakistan. So in Pakistan, yet there are still some very gender specific roles, and we are moving away from them. And we were at a school, and my daughter's diaper leaked, and I just went in and I asked where can I go change the diaper, and I changed my diaper, and my wife was busy with my son at that time. And I
Yeah.
changed the diaper, and it did all that. And it so happened was that like 20 minutes later, we were waiting to meet the principal. 20 minutes later, we went and met the principal, and the principal was like, "Oh, you actually being the father changed your daughter's diaper." And I'm like, "Yeah." So for me, it's more like it's no big deal, right? Because that's what we've been used to doing in the UK. We just, if something needs to be done, we get it done. But it was such a big deal there. And the answer he gave, he's like, "We need more parents like you in our school." So can you
Wow.
just see how it's all changing, right? That in one society, that would be still seen as a very feminine job, whereas in another society, it's like, it doesn't matter. It's not gender specific anymore.
Yeah. And just that your example and your story, I got a question in my mind now. So Ali, how are men different from women then?
So that's a very good question.
Other than the
And
obvious
so
anatomical
of course.
things which
Of course. So I think that the first thing that comes up for me is like we are inherently problem solvers. We want to solve problems. We want to, create that space where, okay, fine, there's an issue. Let me just solve it, and that's something that comes so inherent, so naturally to us. We want to solve the problem. Something else is we absolutely hate criticism. We don't mind feedback, but how the feedback is being given is very important. But if there's criticism, right, we will either I will go either into fight or flight mode. So either we'll run away or we'll actually fight back. And something again linked to that is something that we absolutely treasure is our own freedom. And this concept of freedom is a pretty big value that applies to so many of us. And when we feel that our freedom in any shape or form is being encroached upon,
yeah.
again, we go into fight or flight mode. On the other hand, this is from my learnings, like where women are concerned, right? It's very important for women to be seen. They want to be seen. They want
Yep.
to, at the same time, they want to be seen. And something that men need to learn as well is that sometimes they just want to be heard, but they do not want their problem to be solved. So it's one of those things that, yeah, like, I want to be heard, but I don't want you to solve our problems. What we do is we jump in and try to solve the problems. And
Yeah.
this was really interesting. I was in this, we were at this event, and the presenter said, in the last 3 weeks, how many women over here have felt unsafe? And about 80 to 85% of the room, it was a few thousand people,
Yeah.
women stood up. It was
Wow.
80 to 85% stood up. And that's many, and people who felt unsafe. At the same time, we sat down, and then the presenter said, asked the men, how many of you have felt unsafe? And you could actually just count the few who felt unsafe over the last 3 to 4 weeks. So safety is another value for women as well.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's what's coming up for me.
Yeah, that's historically, if you think about it, men were bigger, men were stronger than women, and women needed that security and safety historically, and that's actually in our predisposition now. I think when you were talking about when you were talking about criticism, that really hit home firstly. But I think the biggest thing for me has always been independence, freedom, and that also means very subtle ways of freedom. Like when someone tells me what to do without giving me a choice or without letting me think about it, there's a very good chance that I won't do it. Obviously, not always, I won't sabotage myself, but there's also a thing where I want to come to it by myself. So there's a little bit of freedom which comes on for all men. And as you said, they don't like being said what to do, they don't like being caged. And when you were talking about safety, you can see a lot of men would do like crazy stuff, like ride a bike without a helmet, do crazy adventure things and get themselves killed, versus women are always looking for safety and security, and they would stutter before doing something very intense. This is a more general thing, not talking about women who don't like adventure or men who are not predisposed towards safety and security. But in general, women have that more for them. And what I have seen in my life and people around me is that freedom is what actually is more valuable to men than women.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that I don't know if it's more valuable to us than women, but
No.
I would say that it's definitely valuable to us. It's something that comes very much on our value chain in terms of this is what we want. And this is
Yeah.
a really interesting one when you thought about safety, right? I remember reading this article, it's probably a few years ago, is it was some research done, right? When you're in a group of friends, right? And they're all sitting together. Generally, if one woman gets up to go to the toilet, she will say there'll be another few who will join her and they will
Yeah.
go to the toilet. But with a man, it's just so weird, right? If I'm going to the toilet, I'm not going to ask any other man there, do
Yeah.
you want to go to a toilet? It's just weird. But at the same time, you can
It is.
see that, like, at the same time, you can see that that there is this thing about safety, right? The safety in
Interesting.
numbers. So it's
Interesting.
just
I just
something
thought
that
they
just
went
came
for
up.
bathroom talks.
No, it was linked. That's a good one. But it's linked to safety then,
I hear
Yogesh.
you. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was just this article, and he and the author just I can't remember the name of the article, but yes, and it's just it was just interesting how he had done that research and how we've
Yeah.
left our primitive selves, but there's a part of us. There's a part of us that's quite primitive even now.
Yeah, yeah. And when you say that, actually, there was a Indian movie called Toilet, which had a very similar scene where basically in this village they didn't want toilets in their house. Basically, the house is like your temple. It's a very safe and pure space, so we don't won't have toilets in our houses. Okay, so that's the idea behind the thing. Logic sounds okay, but we've grown up in like big cities and we've never thought of a house without toilets. But then women who had to go to the washroom would go in big bunches and groups together early in
Yeah.
the morning or late at night. So it has to be early in the morning so that it's dark, but also not late at night, so it's unsafe. And they also go in bunches. So yeah, very very different from our worldview, but definitely a big security thing with regards to. And I never thought about this playing out with women going into washrooms together. But yeah, it's something new I've learned today.
Yeah, wow, it's so interesting, right? Like I spoke about, women at a gathering, right? Like where the toilet is just right there. It's not in that setting. And you spoke about the same thing in another setting, but the
Yeah.
behavior is so similar in both
Yeah.
settings, right? And it's just
Insane. Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. I think that shows that we haven't changed much of our behaviors from our caveman days. And like, oh, let me just correct that. We have changed a lot of our behaviors, but we are predisposed to have similar behaviors and thought processes unless we take some awareness and change it. So, and as you said, like I've never thought about going to the washroom and asking a guy friend to come in. That's just very
Exactly.
weird.
I know.
That's like even if a guy friend is peeing in a urinal, I'm like not having eye contact there. I'm like on my own, like
Exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Just imagine just the what the thought of doing that did to you right now, right?
yeah,
It's just,
exactly.
yeah, yeah,
It's unheard of, and we don't blink an eye when women are doing it. So it's
exactly.
something which I haven't even thought about much. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's move on from the toilet discussions before the show goes to the toilet. Ali, you spoke of courage. I spoke of adventure. So, how would you define courage in your words, and especially for men?
So courage is a really interesting one. And the way courage is this strong, bold person with like, an arrow or a gun. But courage, I feel, has changed. Courage is very personal. Courage is the ability to do something that's uncomfortable, to grow. So for me, courage would be to become more comfortable speaking in public, for example, right? That's
Yeah,
something that I'm working upon.
yeah,
For someone else, courage might be able to being okay with playing dress up with his daughter. For somebody else, courage might mean for a child not be, to speak up to a bully.
yeah,
So courage, again, it's one of those things where yes, by nature, we have this, there's a part of us where we want to absolutely protect our family, protect our children. So that's something that is very much nature provided. But at
Yeah.
the same time, courage in itself is about doing the uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
doing the uncomfortable might, what means doing the uncomfortable for me, Yogesh, right now at this point in time, might be very different from your uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
it's about growing. So that's where I see courage. And at the same time, I would say specifically related to men is that I feel that with time, right, there's some words like being strong. Strong is seen as, oh, that's a strong man. So strong is
Physically.
almost see, yeah, but that strong can also be seen in a very negative sense.
Yeah.
And again, we've been blessed with so many ways of behaving, right? We so displaying so many emotions at the same time.
Yeah.
So, and every emotion has its own time and place for it. And aggression is something, is a trait that is great in the sporting arena. It might be
Yeah.
great in the boxing arena, but it's not great in the family arena. So it's about, everything that's, every emotion that we have is that there's a reason why we have it. But at the same time, it has to be applied in the right place and the right space and the right time.
Yeah, yeah. With great power comes great responsibility. So,
Absolutely.
I guess with men, because they are predisposed to be providers and have physical power, it comes with higher responsibilities. So, when you spoke of men, what do men want? Like, what's courageous for men? Russell Peters comes to mind. Like he has this Asian voice, and he says, "Be a man, do the right thing." And I think for men, doing the right thing is so important, that they are doing that is things that are difficult, that requires them to go outside their comfort zone, that is something which doesn't come naturally to them. So being the protector and provider is natural innately in us, but going to war is not as natural as that. And even in a war setting, there might be a few leaders who are like, you know what, I'm going to front up and be the face of it and go right up there. I don't care about my life. And there are some who are like, strategically just going to war and not really challenging themselves. I think if you take that to today's world, there is war, unfortunately, in today's world. Me, for the biggest things I can't understand why. But in today's world, I feel what is courageous is having discipline, going out of your comfort zone, speaking like from a relationship coach perspective, speaking to the woman, girl you find attractive and you feel very nervous around it, doing the things that challenge you, showing emotions. Like, when you were saying the negative thing about being perceived as a strong man, there's a big image of not showing emotions. Okay, so I believe when a woman is very emotional and she's showing emotions, that's in her nature, because women are emotional beings. And if a man cries at the drop of the hat or is weeping and is too emotional, yes, that doesn't sit right. Innately, it feels not okay. But a man who cannot process emotions is also going to be a man who's going to have a lot of anger, because these emotions, when not processed, when I can't cry when someone passes away, when I can't grieve something, when I can't talk about a challenge I faced with my guy friend, with my family, and I don't process that emotion, all of it pents up and comes out as anger, comes out as lashing out, and comes out as the aggressive behavior you're talking about. So for me, courage is having emotional intelligence. That is very big for me. So, Ali, final question to you. Let's cut out all the bullshit, okay? What do guys really want?
What do guys really want? So they want to be heard. In all honesty, what they want is they want to be heard, but at the same time, to be heard, one takes courage. Takes a lot of courage to be heard, because we're not used to that. We're not used to being okay with being heard. That's why when in stressful situations, it's
Yeah,
I don't know if this is down to conditioning or this is
yeah,
down to a wiring, right? Again, when I'm just thinking about myself at the supermarket versus my wife at the supermarket. If I want to find something where I don't know where it lies, I will
yeah,
be like, okay, I will ask for help, but you know what? I will first try and look for it myself.
yeah,
And so it'll take me 20 minutes to get there, and I will actually keep going, because there's something about asking for help, and
yeah,
it's so weird. It's coming up in something so small as a supermarket. On the other hand, my wife, she needs to find something, she can't find it, she'll immediately ask and she'll go and do it. So I don't know, it's down to our preconditioning or is it down to nature? But at the same time, it's more like, it's not like I don't want to. I'm like, okay, I will ask for it, but only when I have to. And at the same time, we want to be heard. And again, it's about, if I put some stats around it, Yogesh, domestic violence is about 96% of domestic violence is committed by men. 3/4 of the suicides are committed by men. So clearly there is something that there in what you said, right? We require a level of if emotional intelligence. It's about creating that space for men where we speak, because we ourselves are so used to that preconditioning, right? Where we speak politics, we speak sports, we'll probably speak gadgets and so on and so forth, but we will never go a level deeper. And what I've seen is that within my friends as well, right? If I've asked a question, or if I've gone a level deeper, right? We will try and put some humor in it or something in it to change that, a deflection, right? Because it becomes really, really uncomfortable. And it's like, damn, man, I don't want to, it's almost like I'm being seen by the other person. You want to be seen as the top guy, the
Alpha.
The alpha, absolutely, that's the word, the alpha guy. And the truth is that, where alpha is also concerned, right? One may be the alpha in 3 men, but it's not necessary that that same alpha will be an alpha within a group of 10. And that group of, like you could say, the presidents of the world, the prime ministers of the world, they're probably if they are the alpha, they're the alpha within their own nation. But if you bring other presidents and other prime ministers and you put them in the same group, are they still the alpha? So alpha is also extremely, extremely subjective. But, just narrowing it down, it's about 2 things, I guess, to answer your question. Is wanting to be heard, and secondly, having the courage to speak. Because again, it ties down to courage as well. Courage to speak, because when we speak, we can resolve our problems. When we resolve our problems, we become better fathers. We become better sons, we become better businessmen, we contribute to society better. And so much changes. And at the same time, we're even able to better stare at the wall without thinking about anything, right? Because there's nothing in our head anymore. So it's just one of those things. So yeah, I hope that's answered your question, Yogesh.
Yeah. What I'm hearing is, or in my words, I would say, be vulnerable, have the courage to be vulnerable, and then what men want is to be heard. And for me, I think we want to be appreciated, because being a man, as I was saying, requires us to do the right things. So it requires us to have high levels of accountability. And it's nice to be appreciated if I take a girl out on a date to say, "But thank you." If I'm paying for them, say, "I really appreciate it." And there's gratitude there. So wanting to be appreciated, I would say, would be big on it. Ali, it's been a pleasure. As we get to the end of our podcast, what are your final thoughts?
So my final thoughts are, for all those men hearing it, if there's something stopping you, no matter what it is, seek help. There's always a great way to seek help. And it's not about being weak, it's the courage to go out and seek help. So get the help that you need so that you can become a better version of you in your own life, in your own relationships, and so on.
That's beautiful. I think there's nothing much to add on top of that. So that's all we have today, folks. And we thank you for listening in. This is me, Coach Yogesh, and my friend, Coach Ali, signing out from What a Guy Wants podcast. See you soon. See you next week.
Thank you for watching this video. This here is not your obligatory like, share, and subscribe video. The whole purpose behind What a Guy Wants and my work as a men's coach is making you a better man. So if this video helps you become a slightly better version of yourself, please like, share, and subscribe. Also, we'd like to hear from you. So if you like this video, if you resonate with something, please leave a comment. If you did not like something, even then leave a comment. We are cool that way. No problem. See you next week.